Welcome in, everyone, to the Lucky Shots podcast. We've got a bonus episode today. If you aren't living under a rock, you've seen all sorts of news going out. Twitter, ESPN, Sports Center, all of those about players moving, things happening. It's been kind of crazy. Dylan and I yesterday, I just texted him. I was like, hey, we got to do a show. We got to talk about just these last 2 days even, because that's where most of the major news came, was those 2 days. Before we jump into everything, we're going to jump through just some of the re-signings, not re-signings, franchise tags that have gone on thus far. Josh Gordon is going to re-sign with the Chiefs. I guess we'll see how that
Interesting.
goes.
Yeah, it's kind of like they're still taking another flyer on him. I mean, outside of Chiefs fans, I personally cannot remember him making an impact. So maybe Chiefs fans like a reception here that showed promise, a reception there. But hey, we all know the talent that was there almost a decade ago. People still he's still cashing those checks.
Yeah, I mean, all the power to him. You know,
Yep.
If they want to pay you, don't turn it down. Deshaun Watson, his legal situation should clear up a bit on Friday, according to Ian Rappaport. The Panthers are a very possible destination because of news we'll talk about later. The Seahawks possibly are a possible destination. So he's still not out of the woods, but apparently it's supposed to clear up. Should clear up enough for him to play, so we'll see how that goes as well.
That's interesting. Two things, because with Seahawks, you go from like a model citizen, Mr. America, Captain America, Russell Wilson, just a stand-up guy, doesn't say anything interesting, to alleged sexual deviant. And it's just like, okay, wait, what? If he went to the Panthers, all power to him. I think Matt Rule's a fool. I think he has shown that. I don't know why he got a 6-year contract when he took Baylor to one Big 12 championship. Whoop-de-doo. He's shown his ineptitude at this level. This new guy, David Tepper, the billionaire who bought over for Jerry Richardson, who was a little bit of an alleged sexual deviant himself with foot massages, had to sell his team. Tepper steps in. I'm going to billionaire, spend. Turns out he doesn't know how to spend.
So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Mike Williams, he's cashing checks now, signed a 3-year, $60 million contract, $40 million guaranteed with the Chargers. If I'm being honest, that's crazy. Yeah. He had like 3 weeks last season where he was an absolute force, and then he did what Mike Williams does, and he disappeared. Yep. He had a couple big catches throughout the rest of the season, but nothing worth another 3 years, worth that kind of money. So to me, that's a bit of a crazy move.
I wonder if Justin Herbert has something to say with it. Maybe it's like, hey, look what I'm doing. This is the reason why. Let's keep it going. I'm with you. Mike Williams, nice player. I would like to have him on my team, maybe not at that money, which is where I think we are both kind of, gawking at. And he's like a possession guy. Like he's a great jump ball, makes spectacular catches, but he's not too all around. Now, can he still be? It's early in his career, maybe. And Justin Herbert's still getting better and better. But yeah, that was a shock to me as you seeing those numbers fly across our screen.
Right. Going back a little bit to the Panthers, they're not shopping CMC right now yet, but they are listening to multiple trade offers, obviously looking for a first-round pick and a player without a big salary cap hit. Is that a move we're going to see? I don't think so, but if it's in relation to Deshaun Watson, could see some sort of player flip there, that would be insane. So that's something to look out for as well.
Chris, on that note, sorry, I can't wait to just rip into this because on my show, we're going to talk about McCaffrey and Saquon, both. Yeah, not shopping, but listening to offers. Hey, when your GM or front office comes out and says, we're not shopping, but we're listening to offers, you know what you're doing? You're shopping them. That's
Yep.
exactly what you're doing. If you were just listening to offers, you could have just shut your damn mouth and not said a single word to the public. The reason I doubt you're not getting any. I doubt there's been a single offer. I think there hasn't been anything. You are shopping them. You're saying you're listening to try and get more offers. I see right through this bullshit.
There you go. Chris Godwin, franchise tag by the Buccaneers. Obviously, he had his injury towards the end of last season. We'll have to see how that goes. If they come to some sort of deal after this next season, and how much he's affected going into this next year. If, I can't remember exactly what it was in his knee that tore, but if it's something significant enough, he could not even play next year. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes, but he is also a decent young talent that is really, really good if you give him the right quarterback.
Agreed. I'm happy that the Bucs chose to franchise tag him because he could have got screwed. We all kind of held our breath when he did go down with injury. We knew he was a free agent to be. The talent is undeniable. And hopefully it works out for him, as you said. Yeah, that injury is obviously going to do a number where the players are just getting bigger, stronger, faster, younger. Competitive sport, everyone's coming for your things. So at least you got his money this year, and hopefully we could see the Chris Godwin of past. But that's who's throwing to him? Kyle Trask. I mean, the Buccaneers situation is fascinating to me.
It is. Amari Cooper is likely to be released. As of now, I haven't seen anything about him being released, but that's a high possibility. And Dalton Schultz was franchise tagged by the Cowboys. What kind of shocked me about this was Dak Prescott and Zach Martin both restructured their contracts to be able to make the space to keep Dalton Schultz. I love the move. I was a huge Dalton Schultz guy this past season, at least for fantasy football. I loved him. Yeah, he's a great talent, great tight end. And if they get rid of Amari Cooper, that's a guy that they're going to need. I think they're going to probably re-sign Michael Gallup. Still not a done deal with that. Cedric Wilson, who knows? CeeDee Lamb obviously is the guy they're going to be moving forward with. So seeing a guy like Dalton Schultz stay with the Cowboys after the year he had last year, I like it, and I'm happy.
I was shocked at how many franchise tags were being used on tight ends. And then I kind of read into it and it was like, okay, yeah, they're doing it just so they could work out a deal. Like they're basically extending a deadline. Like David Njoku, I was like, okay, yeah, he was, he's a physical freak, but you guys have not been able to use him with Baker. Why would you spend, isn't the franchise tag like 18 mil per year? I guess it depends on the position, especially for tight end, but that was shocking to me. Amari Cooper, he's nice, but is he that nice? The NFL's crazy. It just Bobby Wagner just got released, it chews up and spits out veterans due to cap cuts. I had Bears fans saying they wanted Cooper. That would be nice, right? He's a nice player, but as you said, and you listed out, the Cowboys have weapons. They have younger weapons. Pay those guys, let Cooper walk. I think the writing on the wall was sealed once they drafted Lamb.
Yeah. And then finally, to finish off before we get into the bulk big news, Josh Reynolds signed a 2-year, $12 million extension with the Lions. Neat, nice.
Neat, yes. Go Lions, Dan Campbell. How about I saw today before we hopped on, the Giants are making a push for Mitchell Trubisky. What? Dude, what? Why don't you stick with your own mediocre quarterback? I mean, okay.
This is where we're gonna have to disagree.
Sure.
I like Mitch Trubisky. If you look at him with the Bears, sure, the record wasn't great, the numbers weren't great, but if you actually look at game to game, they had a chance to win almost every single game. They were in the mix of it all the time. One little mistake here or there kept them from winning, but he kept them in games.
I mean, he won a division.
Now, tell me what he had around him as something to, be like, okay, this is my go-to guy. Jimmy Graham, Allen Robinson, I think maybe for a year until he started doing his shit.
And he came off a huge injury, not unlike Godwin.
And I mean, obviously David Montgomery, but that's not that's not a great receiver to throw to anyway. So he didn't have all the weapons and still kept them in games. So I like Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, again, Matt Nagy, we were having a conversation about Fields versus Jordan Love in one of my group chats the other day, because it's like, Fields at least shows he's the better prospect than Love. Love, in the one game he came in for Rodgers, you got Devontae Adams and you're throwing 5.5 yards per attempt down the field. Fields at least has no line, is throwing to nobody, has Matt Nagy and learning at the hip of Andy Dalton. Jordan Love, he's learning at the hip of one of the best ever. And now he's just, he hasn't been able to do it. Yeah, Trubisky's fine. Again, he won in spite of his coach. Yeah, he didn't have anyone. The line was putrid. He's just meh. I mean, look at his numbers even with Buffalo. Okay, when he came in for mop-up duty. 6 of 8, 43 yards and a pick. How did he manage to throw a pick? And he's throwing 8. Oh, my goodness. I mean, the yards per attempt. He's dink and dunk Trubisky, which is also what Daniel Jones is. So I was kind of just like the Spider-Man meme. It's like, hey, why don't you guys actually work on getting better out of position?
I would honestly like to see Mitch Trubisky, a healthy Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney.
Is that ever going to happen with Shepard, though?
Who knows? I don't know. We'll have to see. There's no possibility if he doesn't get there in the first place. So
true. The last thing on Trubisky is, and I agree, maybe I'm being over harsh on him, but he got devoured by the Chicago market. What do you think is going to happen in New York?
Yeah, if you're not a winner in New York, you might as well just leave. All right, so let's get to the bulk of it. I believe the first news to break yesterday was Calvin Ridley, but we'll get to that after we get to Aaron Rodgers. So the numbers on this, it was reported a 4-year, $200 million, $153 million guaranteed. That was put out there. Those numbers were put out there.
Rappaport, I think, jumped the gun, and then Rodgers came out and said, I'm coming back, but those numbers and years are not accurate.
Yeah, he texted Pat McAfee, said, I don't know where those numbers came from. I didn't agree on any of those, and that's not coming from the sources. So don't know where that number came from, but that would be a very good paycheck for him. But I think it's been his plan all along. He played him like a fiddle last year. Oh, I'm not going to come back, yada, yada. Goes out, has an MVP season. And now he's like, where's my money?
Yeah.
And they're going to gladly give it to him, because why wouldn't they? I don't know what the number is going to be, but I'm assuming it's going to be rather high. Yeah. They are franchise tagging Devontae Adams instead of working out some sort of bigger deal with him.
Smart.
David Bakhtiari, I believe, took a restructure of contract. They're making room to pay Aaron Rodgers.
Right. So they're basically saying run it back.
Yeah.
Which again, quite so many questions with this. Rodgers is okay. Maybe he was playing him like a fiddle for more money. Good on him. He's turning into LeBron James with me, where it's like every time he's just begging for attention. It's like, dude, he tweets the photo of One Last Dance last year, and now he's supposedly coming back for 4 years, maybe not. Yeah, the 4 years, I was like, I was like, this guy was talking about retiring last year, and all of a sudden he's going for another 4 years. What does that mean for Jordan Love? He's got to be looking around being like, what the heck? I got to get the hell out of here. What have you done in the playoffs? I mean, great, you're going to run it back, and you've got arguably the best guy in the game right now. Not arguably anymore, because Brady's retired for at least this year. What have you done in the playoffs the last since you won a Super Bowl?
I mean, it's like I said yesterday. I told my cousin, I said, if he doesn't win at least one Super Bowl in this contract, it's going to be one of the biggest highway robberies since Brock Osweiler conned the Houston Texans out of all of their money.
Of course, that was one of the greatest ever.
So I don't know, and how much money are they going to give him? Because they still have Valdez-Scantling, St. Brown that are unrestricted free agents, and then Bob Tonyan, Alan Lazard that are restricted free agents. So you got to find a way to get those guys money too, because I can't imagine if you're bringing Rodgers back, you're going to take away his deep threat for, once a 3 weeks. Robert Tonyan, is proven to be a huge target. And then Alan Lazard's a great young talent. You're not going to take away his weapons again.
But you know what's funny about that is Rodgers has made all those guys weapons. You know, like again, they're not replaceable but you know, they're looking over the years. Rodgers has been throwing to a Sternberger here, you know, a guy with 3 different last names there, MVS. You know, but the Packers have also shown that they can't draft well. So it's like, how are you going to replace those guys? More no names? You know, yeah, I guess Rodgers would rather have the no names that he has had at least a couple of years of repertoire with.
Right. So it's interesting, but at least we have the clarification. He is going back to Green Bay, not going to Denver.
Oh,
but that's okay. That's okay. We'll get to that later.
Hold on. Mark Schlereth, yes, it worked out for Denver, certainly. Reported draft day 2 years ago, Rodgers to the Broncos, book it. Didn't quite happen. Yeah, the last thing on Rodgers, I felt bad most for the NFC North opponents. They get to deal with him for however many more years. And it was just like, damn, because even if he's not winning the Super Bowl, he is dominating that division.
Right. I mean, you've got maybe the Vikings that are even competitive.
They're going the wrong way.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, sorry Lions fans and sorry Bear fans. It's just Bears fans, I guess you're a little closer than Lions.
Right.
But
Rodgers probably looked around and was just like, okay, which division do I want to play in? No brainer. And if they're going to pay me finally, let's run it back in the frozen tundra.
And why the hell would he want to go to the AFC West, where you got Patrick Mahomes, a very young Justin Herbert, you got Derek Carr, and then the rest of that AFC is just devouring. So,
yep.
All right, so let's move on. This one probably hits very close to home with you, Calvin Ridley. News broke. Was it yesterday? He was suspended for the entire 2022 season after he gambled on games in 2021 while he was taking time off for his mental health. Keep that in mind, because that's part of the argument I'm going to throw out there. Ridley stated he bet about $1,500 during the season. Now missing out the 2022 season, $11.1 million off of his contract that he will not make. According to the NFL, Ridley made the bets with no insider knowledge, no help, no awareness of potential important actors, not from teammates, not from coaches, not from executives or team owners. What the hell is going on? I understand you don't want your players betting on, it's an integrity of the game type of thing. I understand that. But he is effectively not an Atlanta Falcon last year. He wasn't in the practice facility. He wasn't in the team facilities. He wasn't at practices. He was not associated with the team in any sort of way. You just said, according to the NFL, he didn't have any insider knowledge. So he is just as good as you and me, sitting on the couch, sitting here bullshitting with each other about making bets.
Correct. So
where is the huge deal here? You want to get into NFL suspensions and why this one is out fucking outrageous? 2018, Michael Hendricks, whatever the fuck his name is, Seattle, insider trading gets 8 games. Okay.
I forgot about that.
Jameis Winston from Tampa Bay at the time, sexual assault, 3 games. Ezekiel Elliott, domestic violence, 4 games. Prince Shembo in 2016, animal cruelty, only 2 games. Rodney Austin, 2015, domestic violence, 6 games. Jonathan Dwyer, 2015, domestic violence, 3 games. Greg Hardy, 10 games that same year. Point being, all of those, bad, very bad. Beating women, beating dogs, in actual insider trading. And we're going to suspend Calvin Ridley for the entirety of the year for gambling. Yes, and he bet on his own team. Yes, that's also bad.
Yeah.
But we're going to suspend him for the entire year, not being a part of the team, being at home, not being involved with the NFL in any sort of way. And now we're going to take him out for this could end his career, because who's to say he's going to get reinstated after this year suspension?
And the NFL, which so many layers to the onion here, we know how stupid the NFL is with their hierarchy of punishments. They don't know what they're doing. They tried to get into the morality game and they just look like clowns. Ray Rice got 2 games, even further than that. And that's the most horrific that we all got to see. And they said Ridley it could be more than 1 year. Yes, like the NFL is ridiculous. And think about how popular sports betting was 3 years ago. It was finally legalized, very still dark room. Now look at how popular it is right now. Ridley's not the only one doing this. I'm just going to tell you right now. Everyone that saw this news was deleting their own accounts, like they're getting rid of that. Now look at what it's going to be in 3 years from now, where it's just going to be even more popular. This is the gray area. And here's where I thought about it is like, okay, yes, I was watching the NBA All-Star game and they had camera shots in the locker room of these guys betting hundreds of dollars playing cards. People like to gamble. People know what the lines are. Okay, if they're not betting, so if you play in the NFL, don't bet on the NFL. Okay, that's fine. Where Ridley takes time off for mental absence, literally signed up under his own name. Like, here's the thing where the NFL, once gambling was legalized, before it was, hey, we don't want to be a part of it. We'll ban Pete Rose in the MLB because he bet on games, gambling, get away. Oh, wait, it's legal? You guys are giving us a shit ton of money? Boom, sign me up. We're getting into bed. Players, they almost didn't have any training, or they kind of just got in and they're making it up as they go. Ridley assumed I could bet on games, right? Since I'm away from the team. Yeah, and he's betting on the Falcons, which shows he's as dumb as the rest of us. Well, which shows he's not a good gambler.
Was it not against the Jacksonville Jaguars? I didn't see who it was. So
yeah, he's betting 3-team parlays, 5-team parlays, 8-team parlays. He's tweeting while this news is breaking. He's like, I don't have a game. It was hysterical yesterday. He's saying, what? I'll just get a year and come back. I mean, he's just probably not that smart, is what we've gathered from the past things. But can he bet on other sports? What if I was the member of a front office in the NFL? Can I bet on my team? Probably not. Can I bet on the NFL? Probably not. Can my parents bet on the NFL? There's just so many things that have not been explained to us what we can and cannot do. If my son made the PGA Tour, could I bet on the PGA Tour? There's just such a gray area, and they're hanging Ridley out to dry as the scapegoat, making an example of him when it's like, and the questions are, should they be allowed to bet on sports? I guess that is the question is, should Ridley be allowed to bet on the NFL? Like, okay, maybe don't bet, but then you open the door to so many different point shaving and illegal activity that could get into there. I don't know the answer, but this obviously took the world by storm yesterday.
And, maybe we get an actual, at some point, Paul Crew moment from The Longest Yard.
Yeah.
Real point shaving. I don't know.
Or the Blackhawks, the Black Sox, like that. Again, and I've heard about it too, is let's go back to the Super Bowl. We talked about this, I believe, on one of our shows, was the missed extra point that was the entire billions of dollars there on the spread. Was Rams -3.5, and a first quarter botch snap all of a sudden swung all that money. Doesn't really get talked about that much. What if that guy got paid off? There's just so much in the weeds you could think about, like stuff's going on. And I think this was just the first thing that the public really got to look at, is like, oh, wow, Calvin, what an idiot. He's betting on games. You think he's the only one? Was kind of my thing there.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. The fact that we're using him to make this example. And this was a point brought up to me by somebody yesterday. He took the time off for mental health. Mm-hmm. What do we think this is going to do to that mental health if, he's away from the game, no structure, things like that? Is that going to get worse as well? Like, who knows how that's going to affect him? I understand they don't really give a shit, but you got to think about how it's going to affect him, and I don't know. This is all a very weird situation. I don't like it. I don't agree with it in the slightest, but
and is he still a Falcon? Like, he's suspended. Are the Falcons responsible for, hey, let's make sure and again, I don't want to I've experienced mental health problems. Ben Simmons used it as, maybe an excuse, maybe not an excuse to work as like people are starting, whether it's good or bad, to use it as an excuse to buy their way out of like, was he using that to get out of Atlanta? And then all of a sudden he's just betting on games, because he thinks he's about to be out of the league for a year and then go to a different team. I don't know. What is that going to do for his mental health? Certainly not helping, I'm sure.
Yeah. And what the hell are the Falcons going to do now? You know how many wide receivers you have on your depth chart?
That's fine.
Right? So what are you guys going to do?
What, we get 7 wins without him the entire year? Good riddance. Let's go draft one. I saw that there were trade offers for him, but wow, the Falcons knew to suspend. They could have fleeced a team. They decided not to. Good on them. Like they could have totally fleeced someone and that would have been savage, but they decided not to. And I actually respect that. Right. Yeah. Ridley's nothing to me anymore. I mean, he bailed on us, this team. I get it if it was mental health. Now I'm starting to think it wasn't mental health. Maybe I'm wrong in that or not, but as a Falcons fan, Ridley, get out of here.
Well, yeah, but look at who else is on your wide receiver core. I mean,
it's terrible.
Everybody's free agents, aren't they?
I think we're going to give a deal to Russell Gage, and that's really the only, and I'd be cool without him. Just throw Pitts and, God, let's draft someone.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be very interesting to see the direction of the Falcons over the next year or so. See how that all plays out.
I'd argue they should be favored in the South this year, even without these guys. I mean, that division is terrible now.
I mean, you've got Matt Ryan, Kyle Pitts, Cordero Patterson.
And AJ Terrell.
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would take Kyle Pitts and I would put
over
Cordero
a rookie
Patterson.
Saints head coach and nobody. Tampa with Kyle Trask, and then the Panthers. Screw the Panthers. They stink.
And now we're going to get off that heavy subject and go to a very light, celebratory, beautiful moment.
Yes.
I wasn't super excited when the news broke. The more that I've thought about it, the more that I've kind of played it out in my head, the much happier I am. I'm very happy about this. Russell Wilson, yesterday afternoon, traded to the Denver Broncos. Broncos finally have a fucking quarterback. It's been too damn long. Yeah. Seattle in this trade receives Drew Lock. Who gives a shit? Shelby Harris. He was all right, but who gives a shit? The only one I was a little about is Noah Fant. I really like Noah Fant, but in the grand scheme of things, we have Alberto.
Yep.
Maybe he's not as talented as Noah Fant, but shit, he got the job done just fine anytime he was in last year. Along with 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and a 5th-round pick.
Denver. What were those? Does it say if they were what years they were for the first round picks?
That I did not look at. I think one of the first round picks is this year.
Okay.
So that obviously is a big pull for Seattle.
Pick, yeah.
And then Denver, obviously they get Russell Wilson. They also get a 4th round pick. So that's huge. Seattle, like you said earlier, Bobby Wagner got chopped. Looks like they're going full rebuild mode, which who knows? That's a huge fall. The Broncos have gone through the past 5-6 years. Hasn't been great. It's been far from great, but it hasn't been absolutely terrible. I don't feel like we ever really hit the rebuild mode. It just kind of was a stay stagnant to below average.
Yep.
And just, I guess you could kind of call it a rebuild, slowly got young guys onto the team. But in terms of just chopping everything, letting everyone go, they didn't do that. We just slowly got new guys, young guys. And now the state of this team, let me tell you, okay, if we want to look at the benefits for the Broncos, Cortland Sutton, he could be the equivalent of DK Metcalf for Russell Wilson. We don't know because he's still pretty young. He's had injury problems. Haven't seen a whole lot of Cortland Sutton, especially with these quarterbacks that we've had. So it hasn't been great. if you want to compare this to 2014, he could be Demaryius Thomas. If we want to go back to the last time the Broncos had a great quarterback and a great offense, 2014. So Demaryius Thomas, that could be his role. Jerry Jeudy is about the equivalent of Tyler Lockett for Russell Wilson. He's younger, more athletic. He's pretty much what Tyler Lockett was 5 years ago.
Yep.
If not better. And he could be the equivalent of Wes Welker, that slot guy, the very quick, inside, can bust a huge play type of guy. Tim Patrick, I don't really know like equivalent or where he lines up, but he's proven to be a very good wide receiver. He'll fit somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. Javonte Williams is better than anybody in the Seattle backfield combined. The entire backfield combined, Javonte Williams is better. I would even say Williams is the best running back that the Broncos have, like, prospect, I guess, that they've had since Clinton Portis. We've had other guys that have been pretty good. Willis McGahee came in, was all right. No Sean Marino for a little bit.
Yep.
We've had decent running backs, but the prospect of Javonte Williams, the way he looked last year, I am very excited about him. So this entire offense looks like it's finally going to come together because there's a quarterback. Sure, we still have a few holes to fill, but the major problem of this offense has now been addressed.
Yeah.
And then that young, very good defense, that's a fantastic start there too. I would love to see us maybe go after Bobby Wagner as well. Screw it. Make it the Denver Seahawks. I don't give a shit. And then there was a tweet from Von Miller just yesterday.
Yeah, if he comes back.
Very cryptic, of looking like he wants to come back to Denver as well. So I'm all for it. This could be a fantastic year. I'm finally excited about Broncos football for the first time in like 6 years.
Which is awesome. Yeah, I thought it was a no-brainer deal for the Broncos. Noah Fant, I laughed at when that was just a classic Elway pick. So was Drew Lock, you know, a tight end in the first round, and it wasn't even the best tight end on his college team. Now, obviously, it was TJ Hawkinson and Noah Fant, two talented guys, but Noah Fant will be remembered in Broncos lore as the guy that got you Russell Wilson. So it turned out to be a pretty damn good pick because I think that was the sweetener. Seahawks. They tried to break it kind of like what the Broncos did. They tried to break down their Super Bowl winning defense, but keep Wilson and keep competitive. Didn't work out. So now they just said full on rebuild, which I don't hate. You know, like if you're going to do it that way, you know, have your fans hate you for a year and then hope that you do it the right way and you eventually get back on top. This immediately makes the Broncos a playoff contender. Immediately. I mean, it's easy to get into now. Trouble is you're in the toughest division in football now. So that's going to be interesting. Russell Wilson, let's hope that hand is healthy. He dealt with a terrible O-line and as you said, at a bad backfield. Broncos have always notoriously had a bad offensive line. They're probably going to want to shore that up for Russell Wilson. He's got the weapons, Jeudy, Sutton, as you said, the defense can play. Are you going to lose a little bit with Fangio? I think deserves credit for having a great defense, even with a mediocre team. Is he going to lose some of that with an offensive guy coming in? Those are questions. But again, I totally think you guys should be hopeful, excited. And there's a breath of fresh air in that mile-high altitude.
This honestly really throws me back to the time of Peyton Manning because the Chiefs at that time were still competitive with,
Smith.
Alex Smith, the Chargers with Phillip Rivers.
Correct.
The Raiders, I believe, still with Derek Carr at that time as well,
he's been around for a little bit.
Yeah, so it throws me back to that. This is obviously, at that time, it was the most competitive division, and I will fight anybody on that. It was the AFC West and the NFC West for about 4 or 5 years. Those were the divisions that was pretty much it. Now we're getting into, you've got the 2 top tier quarterbacks in that division. We now put Russell Wilson in there along with Derek Carr. it's an offensive explosion of a division. It's going to be very fun to watch. I think the AFC West starts to look like the NFC West, where you possibly have 3 teams in the playoffs from that division for the next few years.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be, I mean, the AFC is just nuts. I looking immediately after the Super Bowl, I kind of looked at maybe a value play as the Patriots, defense coach who's done it before. And then second year out of Mac Jones, who made the playoffs in year 1, Broncos, I'm looking defense that could play. All they're missing is a quarterback, a lot like the Rams before they got Stafford. It's trendy. It's trendy, certainly the Broncos, which I like. Now, rookie head coach, a little bit more factors. Who's going to run that team? Like, definitely the new coach had to have wanted Wilson, right? Like, this was part of the plan. So looks like the plan is starting to be executed, and this is, things are going well. Now it's all about get on the field, make it a product that can be playoff bound there.
Yeah, I mean, let's not look too far ahead. I don't want to be like Broncos are going to the playoffs and more than likely the Super Bowl. I mean, we'll see how it goes. It is a tough division.
I'm at playoff contender for you guys. You should be excited.
Yeah. That's really what I wanted to get to. Very excited about that. Very quickly, we want to throw in some combine guys that caught our eye. There was actually a couple that, I'm just watching and a couple names pop up and I'm like, you know what? Who are you? Because at the quarterback position, you had your obvious Jack Cohn from Notre Dame, Malik Willis from Liberty, but a couple guys that kind of jumped off the page to me. Dustin Crum from Kent State.
Okay.
And EJ Perry from Brown. Where the hell is Brown, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
that's an Ivy League school, isn't it? Yes. But looking at Dustin Crum, guy's got a cannon and his ball looks accurate deep. So, I watched a lot of the throws. And he has great lead on his deep passes too, just meaning that his arm is very lively. And then they did that hardest throw thing this year, 53 miles an hour. Pretty decent. And then EJ Perry, I'm going to assume he's some sort of scrambler. He ran a 4.640, which isn't slow.
Sure.
I mean, it's not super fast, but it's pretty decent. He ran a 6.853 cone, which I'm pretty sure was the top quarterback 3 cone. It was up there until, other people.
Sure.
I think the quarterbacks, the running backs, and the receivers had run it, and he was up in the top for those. A 4.18 20-yard shuttle, pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that was also tops for quarterbacks, and then pretty good arm strength. So I don't know if he's even going to get drafted, but I was interested, it was somebody that I hadn't heard of, and he went out and played pretty well.
To your point too, this is a weaker quarterback class. And, the 3 I like are probably Willis. I love Kenny Pickett, even though his hand size is the smallest of any quarterback ever. I think if he finds the right system, that could be interesting. I actually like him for Carolina a little bit if he winds up there. I wouldn't like that so much, but Desmond Ridder is a Cincinnati guy that maybe could go a little bit. He's not the great tangible, I guess, but that dude's a winner and he's done it with less prospects. Imagine if you put him on a good team like Tampa or something, if he wins that job. The biggest combine shocker for me was Jordan Davis running, that huge ass dude from Georgia who's like over 350 pounds. He ran faster than Jameis Winston. Like, that is insanity. I think that dude is going to be a Hall of Famer. He might be like, God, that's like an Ndamukong Suh, BJ Raji, shout out Boston College. I don't think we've seen anyone like that dude. If that dude's running a 4.8 at that size, I was like in awe watching that.
Yeah, that's gonna definitely bump up his draft stock.
Yeah.
A couple running backs that I was interested in. Obviously, some of those top guys, Breece Hall, James Cook. little brother Dalvin Cook. This guy jumped off the page because he's from SDSU, South Dakota State. Pierce Strong. He was the fastest running back actually in the combine. Had a 36-inch vert, which was sixth amongst running backs. 10.4 broad jump, seventh. And when I watched him run, he's just very smooth in his cuts, in the way he moves. Just very smooth. Obviously, you don't get to see any sort of power or things like that, or like breakaway speed, but he looked all right. And then Isaiah Spiller from Texas A&M. He's going to be a really good receiving back. I don't know how great of an actual running back he'll be, but look at the way the NFL is. A good receiving back is almost better than a mediocre running back. So a good team fit could definitely benefit him. He's got good hands, runs pretty precise routes, and he's very quick after the catch. So he'll be a guy that's interesting to see where he goes as well. And then at the wide receiver position, Calvin Austin III from Memphis. He was very impressive to me. Another guy that popped out because of where he's from, North Dakota State, Christian Watson, was actually up in the tops for wide receivers in most of those drills. And then watching him catch extremely soft hands in that gauntlet, you couldn't even hear the ball touch his hands. And that's just insane to me. Precise deep route running, he was, when I'm watching, I want to see how the route is run, as long as it's not like rounded off. Do they get to point A to point B quickly? He did that pretty well, and his ability to adjust to the ball was pretty admirable as well. So he's another guy that, who knows what the future will hold for him, what the draft will hold for him, but they looked pretty good.
There are a lot of first round grades for receivers this year, which is interesting to me because that always kind of scares me unless they're a sure thing. Like a guy I love who just won a national title, but he was obviously injured for most of the year, George Pickens. I mean, that catch that dude made, he's got the build, he's got the, speed, he can jump. He made the crazy tumbling one-handed catch, like soft hands, like you alluded to, with some of your top guys you were watching there. But like Drake London out of USC, like he's a first round guy. I didn't really see much of him in college. Don't know how to go there. Olave out of Ohio State. He's going to be in that first or second round. So I'm interested there because now I look back and like, Ridley was great, but he was a first round pick that we're kind of just holding our hands and we're like, what the hell? And if you go back in so many drafts, like there have been a lot of, look at the Bengals. They just made a Super Bowl despite wasting a first round pick on John Ross III.
And there you go. If you look at the combine, that pick was solely made for that 40 time.
Exactly. They're like, speed. Yes.
But when I watch the combine, I try not to watch the big names, I didn't give a shit to watch Aiden Hutchinson or, those top guys, because we know what they bring to the table. They don't really need to be at the combine. Who gives a shit about what their 40, like we watch them play. That's why we're interested in them. These other guys that you don't necessarily see play all the time, like a guy from Brown, a guy from South Dakota State, North Dakota State. Let me see those guys, because I want to see how they look out there, what they do. Obviously they've got the 40 and all those intangible things, but I want to see them run. I want to see them catch. I want to see how those things happen, because ultimately that's what makes up a good football player, not how fast you can run, how much you can bench. So
Agreed.
But that is it for today's show. I think we ran a little long, but there was a lot to talk about. So
good stuff. And what you said too, it was like, I can't remember a football news week like we've had, 2 days into this one.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what is today? Wednesday. And that right there was a full week of news any other time. So good to have you back on. Do keep in mind, everyone, there will be a lot of bonus episodes this summer. I'll have building a team for, $15, something like that. Figure that out. some tier lists. And then I'm going to make the announcement now. There will be a new episode next week, or not next week, next season. It'll be kind of a card collecting type of episode where I am making, you play Madden Ultimate Team. You've seen that, right?
Oh, yeah.
That you get those cards completely free. All you got to do is slap down a subscribe, message me on Twitter. You get, your own card of whatever, and you'll spin a wheel. You'll get a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a tight end. So you'll pretty much build a fantasy team with the cards. Weekly drops on those cards. So the first ones will be the fantasy stars, the hidden gems, and then those will be the first 2, and then team captains.
Interesting.
Those will be the first drop. Second drop is going to be the draft. So those rookie cards, we'll get those out. Okay. And then before the season starts, after all the free agency's over, we'll get some free agent cards out. They all have different overalls. So the point is to collect throughout the season and see kind of what overall you can get your team to. So that is going to be a new thing we will do next season. That is in the works. So that first batch of cards, we'll see when that comes out. And Dylan, I expect you to be one of the first guys.
Yeah, I'm in. I was already saying
I'll
be into that. Yes, of course.
So, and people like the NFTs, stuff like that. I can't obviously sell it. That caused me legal trouble, so, but it'll be completely free. And, so it'll be fun, collect cards, tune in to see every week what the new cards are. And then, make a spin weekly, get a new card. So
I like it. And that's a cool spin on, obviously a sport we all love that I haven't seen done before. So I think that's going to draw. That's good stuff.
Yeah. All right. So that is it for today, everyone. Thanks for joining. Keep an eye out for everything else. I believe Dylan and I will be doing a show right after this. So that'll be up as well. Check out his channel, Dylan Corbett, and follow his socials, Dylan Corbett, Corbett's Corner, all of those. But thanks for joining, everyone. We'll see you next time.